Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I know lately I've been reviewing games in a weird order sometimes, but it's only because I play them in a weird order. For some games I just wait until they go on sale, and other times I just get them brand new. It really just depends. And even when I get them brand new, it takes me a while to play through them. There's one genre in particular that I have trouble playing nowadays, and that's open world games with 100+ hours attached to them. Just thinking about playing a huge open world game like that just overwhelms me sometimes. Not to mention that lately I've been having a fatigue of open world games. That being said, Ghost of Tsushima is a fantastic open world game. Yeah, that fatigue is still there, but Ghost does a great job at bringing me back into its world. So with that being said, let's get into the review. The story takes place on the real-life Japanese island of Tsushima in the late 13th century. The island of Tsushima at the time was being invaded by Mongols, and they led an invasion on the beach of Kamada. The samurai protagonist Jin Sakai and 80 other samurai faced off the invaders at the beach. The battle was tragic and left Jin barely alive, wiping out all of the samurai but him. He managed to make it out with some help from a thief, but unfortunately his uncle was captured by the Mongols, and it's up to Jin Sakai and his allies to rescue Lord Shimura and to take back the island from the Mongol invaders. It's a more personal story this time around, as you follow Jin and his struggles with his honor as a samurai and his people. The dynamic that Jin goes through is just fascinating, as he slowly inches away from his samurai creed into that of the Ghost. The samurai face every situation with honor, head on, while the ways of the Ghost are, well, not that. I wish there was more with Jin's struggles, and I would have liked to see more out of Jin's character. He plays the basic protagonist, which is fine, but I would have liked to see even more from him. We get glimpses here and there. I'm not saying he's a bad character at all. I'm just saying I would have liked to see more from his character, from going from samurai with honor to his character as a stealthy, sly ghost. Of course, it's not just the main story. There's a plentiful amount of side quests. These are mostly standard side quests until you get into the mythic quest. Holy crap, these are amazing. They basically delve into old legends, ranging from ancient armor to ancient techniques. It's amazing, and definitely worth your time. If you see this blue icon, just go to it. Other than that, the story is really good, and the allies you make along the way are pretty good as well. I think the footage speaks for itself, but man, this is one fantastic looking game. I think what stands out to me the most is the foliage on the island. The leaves blowing all throughout the island is just so cool. The wind in the game adds to the environment and makes the world feel lived in. On the technical side, the game is smooth, with little frame drops. It's a very polished game overall. The only wonky thing that comes to mind is when Jin parkours. Sometimes it looks good, other times it looks a bit awkward and finicky. It just seems very floaty to me, and sometimes the animations of him jumping and landing are just a bit off, but other times it looks great, so it's a minor nitpick, but I feel like I should mention it nonetheless. Other than that though, Ghost of Tsushima is a beautiful, polished experience. Oh, also, there's a Collosia mode, which makes the game black and white, have compressed sound, just like the old samurai films, which is pretty neat. Like I said before, the game overall is just polished, more so than a lot of other AAA open world games. Let's go ahead and split the gameplay section into exploration and combat. Let's start with combat. Jin is equipped for just about every situation. He has a katana for melee combat, as well as different stances that he uses for better advantages. The stone stance is good against sword wielders, water stance is good for shields, wind stance is good for spearmen, and the moon stance is for those big boy brutes. The stances can be switched on the fly, so you can easily adapt in combat. With these stances are tools that Jin can use like kunai, smoke bombs, and sticky bombs. These are great when things get dicey. Along with the sword and tools, Jin can use 2 types of bows, one for long range and one for quick mid-range shots. Jin can also use fire and heavy arrows to do massive damage. There are certain duels in the game that are kind of like boss battles, and these are awesome. This is straight up stylish, and it's so cool because you can't use tools in these duels. You only use your katana, and that's it. Just you, your sword, and your wits. These are very challenging, but very rewarding. Easily the best fights in the game. For those who are more into stealthy gameplay, boy do I have news for you. It's here, and it's okay. This is where Jin goes from brute samurai with nerves of steel to stealthy ninja who disregards his family's honor and tradition, but let's not talk about that. Jin uses a knife to quickly dispatch his enemies, and he can use that handy dandy bow of his to kill enemies quietly from afar. The reason I say stealth is okay in this game is because it has the basic stuff, like sit in the tall grass or lure the enemy in your direction so you can finish them off. That stuff is neat, but there could have been more to flesh the stealth out. You do get a blowpipe sometime later in the game, so that's pretty cool. But I would have just liked more focus on stealth because you are turning from a samurai into the ghost, or at least that's how the story plays out. Your gameplay is up to you, but the story plays out as you slowly turning into the ghost. But that's a talk for another day. Okay, so now that we're through with that whole thing, let's get into one of my favorite things about the game. The world is the best part of the game. It's a beautiful looking game, and Sucker Punch did an amazing job. Your main way of traversing the world is by horse, and luckily the horses are fast and fun to control. These aren't Red Dead horses, that's for sure. There's one big mechanic in Tsushima that makes it stand out from other open world games, and that mechanic is the wind. No, I'm not kidding. The wind in this game is my favorite mechanic. And yes, I mean mechanic, because like Wind Waker on the GameCube, the wind can technically be controlled. Of course, in this game though, it has a different purpose. Instead of using it to get across the ocean, Tsushima instead uses it as a waypoint for missions and objectives that you pinpoint on your map. It's genius. Most open world games use a mini-map on the corner of the screen, which is fine, but I often catch myself looking at the mini-map more than the actual world itself. The wind mechanic essentially fixes this issue. Sure, you are more likely to open the map more to pinpoint objectives, but the wind guides you the rest of the way, and your attention won't be fixated on the minimap. In fact, there's barely any HUD on the screen. The HUD only pops up when it needs to. The wind isn't the only thing guiding Jin, because the animals in the environment can also lead Jin to new areas or important shrines. Jin Sakai is basically a Disney princess. It's so cool having nature interact with the player in such a natural way, at least for the most part. Sometimes it can feel a bit forced when you see the same bird flying around trying to show you something, but that feeling doesn't happen often. There are different shrines throughout the island, like fox shrines and shrines that required Assassin's Creed levels of parkour. These segments are pretty fun and frustrating all at the same time. The island is filled with towns and camps, with people who are willing to make you upgrade and sell your gear for your supplies? It's a different currency than what I'm used to, okay? Either way, these towns are really nice, and some are just straight up beautiful. However, each town mechanically are about the same. They all have upgrades and side quests, but there's no variation other than some small stuff here and there. I wish there was more activities, or at least have different shops that sell exclusive items, like good exclusive items. All the towns are the same to me mechanically, and that's a shame because visually they are stunning and diverse. There are small activities that you can do in the open world itself, like making haikus and chopping bamboo. These are not only fun, but beneficial to you too. If you like open world games, then you are going to have a good time with this game. The music was done by the composers Ilan Eshkeri and Shigeru Umebayashi. This is an epic soundtrack that encapsulates the setting and tone of the game. The orchestrated tracks were accompanied by traditional Japanese instruments, and it's so cool to see these two composers joining forces for this game. It's a fitting soundtrack that has a somber tone given the theme of the game. It's a good soundtrack, and luckily it's on Spotify if you want to check it out. Oh, before I forget, the photo mode is the best that I've ever seen. There are so many options here. You can change the time of day, change the speed of the wind, and of course add filters. You can even add particles like leaves and fireflies. It's so cool. If you enjoy taking photos in video games, then this photo mode will not disappoint you. There's also multiplayer in this game, which might sound like a tacked on feature in a packed single player experience, but it is surprisingly fun to play with a couple of friends. There are 4 classes that players can choose from. There are also new tools and abilities that are unique to each class. It's shockingly deep, and I love that it's here for people who enjoy that kind of stuff. I certainly did. This game is great, with a stunning world and engaging combat that is just so addictive. I know this review is a little late, but it's a great game. If you love open world games and haven't played it yet, then what are you waiting for? It's worth every penny, plus it's been out for a while, so you might be able to find a good deal on it. Let me know in the comments below if you've played this game. Also, I've been thinking about giving games scores. I don't know, I feel like I should make my point more clear about what I actually feel overall about this game. Even though I'm hesitant about giving games number scores, I'm gonna do it anyways. Just know that my opinion can change over the course of time. So this number might not stick with me a couple years down the line. It's just how I'm feeling right now. So with that being said, I give Ghost of Tsushima an 8 out of 10. That seems about right. Not quite a 9, just because I would have liked to see the game have a bit more to it in terms of making it itself stand out from other open world genres. I think one more interesting gameplay mechanic would have really bring that number up a point or 2. But with that being said, I really had a good time with this game. And I think you will too, even if you are a little burnt out on open world games. I think this one might change your heart a little bit, just a little bit. If you don't like open world games at all, then this isn't going to change your mind, fam. It's just not. But with that out of the way, I'll see y'all next time. Have a great day and God bless.